Hey guys, Harry Wilmington here, and from here on out, I am your introvert dating coach. So today, I want to talk about the subject of, are there any good women left to date? And I want to cover this because if you watch a lot of male-leaning content on YouTube or listen to podcasts where men talk about women, you may get the sense that there's too many women out there that are not good picks. They're just after men for their money. They have unrealistic standards and they just want all these things that are not even necessary for relationships. And they're turning down all these good guys. They only want the bad guys, yada, yada, yada. So if you consume enough of this content, you can start to have a worldview that all women are bad and there's no sense in dating them at all. But if you really look outside of that thought process and really look at people around you, both in your family as well as in your social circle, you'll realize there are still men out there that are continuing to find women who are good women. Why? Because there are also still good women out there. Just like if you consider yourself a good man, then hearing a woman say some crap like, oh, all men are just players and they just want sex and blah, 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 and that's not you, you think to yourself, well, like, that's not true. Why is she thinking that? But again, your worldview, what you're hearing and what you're consuming, combined with your experience, may lead you to think that there are no good women. And so what I want to go over today are the 5 things that can help you better your chances at actually finding a woman that would be considered to be a good woman that's right for you, that will treat you well, and that will ultimately want to be in a relationship with you that can go the distance. The first thing that can determine if you're able to find a good woman is, where are you meeting these women? If you are a guy that is constantly going to places like clubs, parties, etc., meeting women, it's not that you can't find the love of your life in these situations. It's just that the environment itself doesn't really foster your ability to actually get to know a woman well enough to decide if she'd be a good long-term prospect. Most of the time at parties or at club situations, there's alcohol involved. There might be other kinds of drugs there. There's loud music. And so there's a lot of dancing. It's a very hypercharged environment where there's horniness there. There's alcohol, which means there's thinking abilities that are currently being held back a bit to where they normally be. And so your ability to be able to really judge women in these situations about whether a woman's a good pick or not are going to be very much off. In spite of the fact that also in most of these environments, she is also going to be like probably a little bit inebriated and, out of her mind about stuff, to where you might think in that environment, oh yeah, we're both really feeling each other and vibing and having a good time and we're drunk and we're just living life free. But then when you get her outside of that environment, she might have been drinking at these parties, for example, to mask the fact that her personality is not that great, or she has a messed up life, or she has a baby daddy situation, or she's got a bunch of kids at home, or she had a lot of trauma growing up to where she's bringing baggage that would not have shown up at a party or a club environment, okay? So if you're getting with these kind of girls on a regular basis, is it any wonder then that your thought process about women would be, oh, there are no good women? Because in these environments, you're not going to be able to find a woman at her absolute best, okay? So if that's something that's been happening, you may want to start considering looking at other environments and places where it's going to be able to allow you to vet a woman better and foster a potential, like, you guys have similarities and qualities that you could actually build upon. This is why I say doing things like, if you have a certain hobby, going to clubs where that hobby can be done, or, doing like a hiking club or a running club, or just places that, you can go whereby it's going to be an environment that's going to actually foster you spending time with the person. I do a lot of online dating personally, just because I think it's a great way to get to vet somebody in advance. Not you get to know everything, but you'll be able to at least see, they'll usually put on there what their lifestyle is like, what they're into, what they're not into, and that can allow you to really kind of figure out, okay, this is somebody worth getting to know down this pathway, versus just at a club or party environment, you don't really have that chance, and you're just kind of haphazardly going at it, okay? The second way to determine if the woman that you're with is going to be a good pick is to really expand your vetting process. I think as men, we make assessments about women that we're going out with very quickly. Like within a span of 1 or 2 dates, we're already thinking things like, she's absolutely the one, I see nothing wrong with her, she's so great, she's attractive, she seems like she might be loyal, therefore I want to be with her. And you really need time. You need time to really go out with this woman a few times and really have those deep conversations, spend time seeing what she's like in different environments, seeing how she's treating other patrons, your waiters and waitresses, the attendants at various events you go to, really getting like a better idea about if you guys are going to gel long term versus just saying, oh, she's pretty and I want to do her, so I'm going to pick her. Because what that can lead to is you'll make a choice early on about a woman, and then down the line, you find out all this extra stuff that you were not aware of, and now you're thinking, oh, this woman hits stuff for me, or she's really just about my money and all this other things, and you're thinking all women are now like that. But the reality is some women are like that, not all women, but if you did a better job vetting a woman in advance versus just going off your hormones and just want to jump her bones, then you'd be able to differentiate between the women that should be left over here in the streets and the ones that you can actually say, hey, this is going to be a long-term prospect. But you got to work on your vetting process. Don't try to rush into anything. Don't try to, take her on 5 dates that first week. Don't try to call her all the time. Don't think that you got to automatically wife her up after 2 weeks because you just had a couple of great dates. Like, no. Women on average take 2 to 3 months to vet a guy to further solidify her feelings. You should be taking that same 2 to 3 months to really look at the things that she's doing, seeing if it's congruent with how she actually is, and making a determination that way so you'll have a better shot at keeping somebody around that actually is a good choice. The third way to better help yourself at getting a woman that is a good woman is to really focus on learning how to do the things that actually create attraction. I think sometimes men go out there and they just assume I'm going to just be myself and do whatever I want and women can take it or leave it. And there is some level of that whereby you want a woman that's going to take you for who you authentically are. But that said, women also want you to be able to know the right pacing at which they are going to build attraction towards you. Because most women, if they go out on a first date with you, they might get to the end of that date and they might have the feels for you and think that you're great, but it's like beyond that first date, what things are you going to do that's going to really like up that attraction level for her? What's going to be that thing that's going to make her feel those tingles on a consistent basis? What ways are you going to go about trying to contact her and take her out that are going to make her feel safe with you? Because feeling safe with you for women is part of the attraction process. And I think where a lot of men mess that up, quite honestly, is they start doing what I call the overindulgence and the over-obsession. They're calling all the time, texting all the time. They're asking for all these dates back to back to back. They're trying to galvanize all of her time. And that doesn't make a woman feel safe. It makes her feel like you're trying to control her, okay? So to that point, you can't just be there and just be like, I'm just gonna be me or whatever. You need to learn the things that, what are the ways that you can talk to a woman? What about your tone of voice can you change to make a woman feel that connection to you? In what ways can you text her, can you call her? What kind of dates can you plan that are gonna really make her feel like she's getting to know you, that's making her feel like you're being romantic and sleeping off her feet, while at the same time, she's still having a realistic portrait of who you are, but she's feeling that because of this version that you are, and then knowing and respecting the pace that she needs to go at, that she's going to start filling those things out, okay? So it's really important to learn those things because you can't be a man without a plan. A man who tries to date without a plan is a man that is doomed to fail. And I'm going to do a show about that later this week. But yeah, you want to make sure that you're starting to learn those things. I got a lot of those things you can learn at my website, introvertdatingsuccess.com, ebooks, programs, etc., that will help you out with that. The fourth way to be able to really better lock down a good woman is to start with yourself and really focus on dealing with any traumas that you may have had in the past, whether it's any kind of traumas you had growing up with your parents, whether it's any kind of dating traumas you may have had, whether it's getting over any kind of baggage you may have had from previous situations. Because here's the thing, if you are a guy that is focused on getting women, but you're not focused on dealing with your trauma, then what's going to happen is this. If you've been in any kind of traumatic situation, it's going to automatically heighten your sense of the things that you're seeing out there, and sometimes they may be off. So you may be thinking, for example, like let's say you go on a date with a girl, and then you text her the next day, and she doesn't get back to you right away. Your first thought might be like, this is just like that last girl I dated that I text her and she didn't text me back for like 12 hours and I found out she was cheating on me. Oh, this is the same situation. And this woman could have just been busy at her job, hanging out with her family, whatever, but you're going to take it the wrong way. So what's going to happen is your reaction to things aren't going to be the healthiest if you have gone through trauma and not dealt with it, okay? So you need to really, if pressed, if you have some serious things that you need to get over, go to therapy, talk to somebody, but recognize that your trauma could blind you by default to the way that a good woman is actually treating you, because you'll be thinking everything that she's doing as a bad sign based on your trauma, and she does not deserve that, okay? And women that genuinely like you are going to be showing you signals that indicate that they like you. I don't need need you to misread those signals as what is she really about, or this is a trick, or it's a trap, or the last woman did this and it ended up hurting me. Like, you don't want to be in that space, because then you will chase good women off. And then the fifth way to really help you solidify whether or not you're able to get a good woman, honestly, is to really establish what your dating goals are. And I know most guys talk about this in the form of like short-term versus long-term. I tend to err on the side of there's no need in wasting your time dating somebody if you're not thinking that this person could be a potential long-term prospect. But either way, most women that are quote unquote good women are most likely going to be trying to date with the intent of, if this goes well, I'm in it for the long term, okay? But I point this out because you may be going for a lot of women right now that are just short-termers. And if you're a person that's a long-term guy, but you're dating all these women that are just for these short flings or just want to go out and get drunk and party every night, and they're not aligning with your values, then is it any wonder that you're going to see most women as bad, because you're thinking, oh, we hooked up. And so, like for you, for example, you might hook up with a girl and think, okay, if I hook up with a girl, that signals that I want this to work long term. But if you get with a woman that's like, my hookup just means I just had fun that night, but it doesn't have to lead to anything, you're going to be very frustrated when she starts getting flaky or trying to hook up with other guys outside of you, which is going to make you think, this is why there's no good women left, because I was trying to be a good guy and I hooked up with her, and then she's treating me like all those other guys that treat her bad. And what's the deal? But are your goals aligned? So these are conversations you have early on. If you're, for example, if you're on a dating website, you should only be on the dating website with the intent of trying to date long-term, because that's the point, is to sign up to be able to get dates that you couldn't possibly get outside of online dating, or people that you couldn't meet outside of online dating, but you're using it as a means to be able to do that to then go long-term. Is there anything necessarily wrong with doing short-term? Not really, but if you're a guy that's a man with a plan, you should be focusing primarily on your goals in life and your dreams. And part of that could mean trying to find a partner that's going to be there to help you establish those goals. You're not gonna be able to do that if you're just going after all these short-term flings and these women that just only want to be in it for a little bit, but not long-term, okay? So you really want to focus on what your dating goals ultimately are, whether it means you want a long-term relationship, if you want marriage, if you want kids, if you want all that other stuff, because you're going to be extremely frustrated if you have certain goals and the woman you're chasing after does not, all right? And that's on you. That's on you to determine these women out here that are aligning with your goals and are wanting the same things versus not, and deciding what your moves are going to be. But you can't be frustrated if you go after all these short-termers and then they don't want to stay long-term. You cannot force a woman to change into a long-term woman. And honestly, even women that are quote-unquote short-term women will change to long-term women if they find you of value. But that also goes back to some of the other things I talked about, dealing with your trauma and really knowing what the lines of attraction and stuff are. All these other things that are going to make a woman see you as more of a long-term prospect versus a short-term prospect. If you've had issues with that in the past, then again, go to introvertdatingsuccess.com, sign up for some of my programs, check out my ebooks, and also go, if you're listening to some of the podcasts, go to youtube.com/Harry Wilmington to subscribe to my YouTube page, where you can get these kind of lessons on a weekly basis, okay? But all that to say, guys, ultimately, yes, there are still great women out there. In fact, I think most guys focus so much on like the 15 to 20% of women that are toxic and that are really trying to use them into all this other stuff, that they don't really think about, A, the fact that there are the remaining 80% of women out there that actually will stay with you long term, and that B, you will still mess up with those women if you're not right in yourself. So really get yourself right, get focused, learn things you got to do, get past your traumas, learn the means of how to attract women, learn how to pace out dating so it's not you trying to rush in and scare them off. And I promise you, you'll start to see that there are legitimately more good women out there if you know, in fact, what the heck you're doing. Thank you for watching this episode of the Introvert Dating Success Show. If you found the info in this episode to be helpful, please show your support by clicking on the tip jar tab, the link of which can be found at the website and in the description below. Be sure to like, share, subscribe, and comment on this episode, and catch new episodes right here on YouTube or wherever podcasts can be found. In the meantime, be sure to check out these other episodes so you too can learn to date as your introverted self while still getting your precious alone time. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time. Peace.